All right, we are live. Welcome to Romance Happy Hour. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Dylann Crush, and I'm here with my co-hostess, Dawn Luedecke, and we've also got Annabelle and Ivy joining us tonight. So welcome to the show.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dawn, why don't you tell us what you've been up to? Give us an update since we were last on. It seems like yesterday.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. There's so much going by fast already.
It really is. I am working on some revisions, and then I've got book 2 in. I don't even know what the series is going to be called, but it's one of my cowboy contemporary series. Marissa's story. I'm starting that one, and that's very exciting. I'm going to give off my own secrets here. There's a bathtub in the very first scene, but it's not as juicy as Dylan's bathtub scenes. So,
well, you know, I'm partial to bathtub scenes. So.
I know. Yeah, no, mine's not a sex scene. It's just a cowboy in a bathtub because I thought that was pretty hot. But yeah, so
photo that you could use for that.
It's a cowboy in a bathtub. There you go. That's my tagline. What about you, Dylan? What are you working on?
I'm swamped right now. I'm up at the cabin. I told my husband I'm not coming home until I finish this book that is due on July 1st. So I don't know. I may be moving in here. I'm not sure.
And how many words do you have left?
I need to figure that out. My laptop died this week, so it's all, I was able to get into Google Docs and it was backed up, but then we had to scrape my laptop and reload everything. And so, yeah, so technology has not been friendly to me this week at all, but I think, I'm in the home stretch. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say, because if by chance my editor or agent or somebody is watching, I don't want them to panic. And
I get that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be fine. I'm going to hop into our little sprint room after this. I'm sure Ivy will meet me in there tonight or tomorrow, because that's where a lot of time in there and getting new words. So
but can I just point out, Dylan, that like every show I always say, like, Dylan just writes so many words per day, and then I'm always saying this because you're always like, I got like 80,000 words to write by next week, and then you always like get it done. And so I'm just pointing that out, that you're like, I'm not going to say.
No, not going to say.
But I have to have it done by next week. So.
It will be done. It will for sure be done. So. All right. So we have got ML and Ivy here. You want to introduce yourself? ML, why don't you go first and just tell us what you write? And you've got some new releases coming up that you were telling us about before we went live. So.
Okay, so I write under ML Guida. I write both sci-fi romance and paranormal romance. And so my sci-fi romance is all about sexy shifters from outer space. So I write about dragons and bears. And that's what I'm going to be reading tonight is Madness Unleashed, which is my first book, which is the launching the whole series in that is this one and that. But I'm also starting a new venture. I fell in love with Academy romance. And I just, in fact, when I first started writing my first contract, it wasn't a romance. So I'm just going to talk about it real quick. It was a young adult, and I just love those characters, and a lot of my readers liked them. So I'm turning all of that into an Academy romance, and I'm writing that under M. Guida. So that's going to be coming out in August. Is going to be that. That's going to be the first one. It'd be Legacy Academy Year 1. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm kind of doing both things at once because, you're a writer.
Life as an author. Yeah. So I write contemporary romance and romantic suspense, and I released my first book, Conspiracy in the Capitol, earlier this month. June seems like it was kind of long, so I can't believe it's only been less than a month. And I am gearing up to release Behind the Hill, which will be coming out next month on July 31st. I just did my cover reveal and everything, which was super exciting. And I'm just full steam ahead, and super excited to see what more is to come as a new author.
Yeah, fun.
Very cool. I love that cover with the kind of the illustrated cover. That one's it's cute.
Cute.
So are all of your books centered around like the DC area? Because they look like they maybe have a little bit of a political bent to them.
Yep. As of now, it's where I live, and even though I'm originally from New York City, I've been in DC since 2012. It's been 2012, right? Yeah. So it's been a while. It's been weird, almost 10 years. So that's I love DC. It's and I worked on Capitol Hill and worked for the federal government. So I try to take pieces of that former life and add it to my books.
Nice.
Any secrets that we get to look forward to being revealed in your novels, or no?
No, I was not high enough to have such a high clearance or anything. So I mean, I can make them up, and then people might think they're real, but no.
All right. And I see a lot of familiar faces in the comments there too, that from our sprint group. So they're coming out in support. And yeah, we've got several people that ML knows that we know in common too. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see it now. Now I see it. Oh yeah.
All right. Who is reading first tonight?
I guess it's me.
All right. I think that's what we decided. I'm sorry. I was trying to get, I went from my Mac to my iPad to my laptop. So I'm feeling a little discombobulated this evening.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't paying attention when you guys figured that out. So,
Okay.
all right. We've got ML reading first. And what are you reading from?
I'm going to be reading, from Madness Unleashed, and it's the first book. I also have the other ones, because I didn't realize we were supposed to bring a cover, so.
I'm sorry, we should have told you. You know what? People get cranky if you don't show your covers in the comments. They like to see the pretty pictures, so. And those are some nice ones.
Look at those ads.
That's the first one, Madness Unleashed. Well, mine are all Manchester. And
yeah,
then,
as close to the camera as you want.
Okay, and then the second one is Madness Unhinged. This one's kind of an interesting one because this is based on Jack the Ripper, and all of my books, even though they're from outer space, they're all based in Colorado because that's where I'm from. So they come to Earth to get usually Colorado women. And then this is the third one, Unmasked in that. But I have, in this series, there's 6. I don't have the covers for the other ones in that. I don't have the hardbacks in that. But this is the one I'm going to be reading from is Madness Unleashed. And it's the first book in there in that. And so, yeah, Carrie loves Manchester. And then I see that. Yeah, so doesn't love Manchester, right?
Who doesn't? I know.
So I'm going to read this one. And so mine also has, the evil aliens. It's all their mates are missing. And that's true with the bears and with the dragons in that. So I'm going to go ahead and start.
We will duck out and leave you to it. And we will be back after you're done.
Okay. So I'll just start reading that. Okay, this is from, I'm starting with the prologue in that. And so this one is, I'll just start reading. So, King Grimmin raised his arms. My people, I have summoned you today because there might be a way for us to survive as a race. Someone yelled, how can this be? Our women and daughters are dead. No one can replace them. Grimmin lowered his hands. Listen, please. The fates have spoken to my lovely mate. Damon gritted his teeth, his throat tensing tighter and tighter. She was the object of his desire. Gasps and mumblings filled the chapel as the Queen Cosima approached the king. The sunlight shone through Angarth Citadel's stained glass window and flickered off Cosima's tiara, making her look like she had a halo around her. Her big green eyes shimmered as bright as the emeralds in her crown. Her silky blonde hair flowed over her slender shoulders, and he ached to run his fingers through those silky strands. But she belonged to the king. Gremlin was in sharp contrast to her, with his black hair and brooding face. He was the most powerful dragon on Zalara, and any attempt to seduce his mate would mean a certain painful death. Do not despair. There is still hope for us. Listen. Cosima motioned toward the bubbling pool. The slight motion made her white glossy gown glimmer, reminding Damon of a sparkling star. I bring us hope. True, our beautiful women are gone, but the fates have shown me that the Earth women are compatible. We may still survive as a race. However, the process of finding a race is a difficult one. The fates must choose them, because only the chosen ones can mate with us. Their destinies must align. She took Gremlin's hand and gave him a loving glance. Damon tensed as old jealousies tightened his skin. He wanted to be the one to receive those adoring glances. He gripped the pew in front of him so hard it cracked. His best friend, Haas, who everyone cast him a warning look. He was the chief of security for the Orion. Damon immediately stuck his hands at his side, clenching his fist. The queen led the king toward the baptismal pool, and together they knelt in front of it. A large stained glass window of 2 dragons winding around each other was at the back of the altar. He wished he was the one at her side, but she was in love with the king. His only recourse was to be her personal guard so he could look at her every day and protect her with his life. Suddenly, the pool bubbled softly. Cosima kissed Gremlin's hand. A mate has been chosen. Damon hissed louder than a pissed-off Nook. Haas elbowed him in the ribs. Control yourself, or Gremlin will rip you to pieces. He was right. Gremlin was extremely possessive of Cosima and wouldn't take kindly to knowing her personal guard was secretly lusting over her. Cosima turned to the congregation. We will soon learn who will be the first person to save our race. Damon thought the queen was looking at him. Every muscle tensed inside him, his anger twisting and twisting them into threadbare cords. It better not be him. He had no intention of mating with some damn alien. His heart lay with Cosima, and no earthling would change his devotion. Out of the pool rose 2 ghostly women dressed in white robes. They were the original mothers of their race and had been the last female shapeshifters. When they had perished, the gods had granted them sightseeing powers. Only when there was great need could they be called upon. Obviously, all the women being slaughtered met that urgency. But what good were the fates? They had been useless against the Camtrinians' deadly weapon. Greetings, King Gremlin. Queen Cosima Relo, the smaller of the 2, bowed slightly. Although she was the smaller, she was also the more powerful of the fates. Her dark eyes sparkled, and Damon winced at the brightness of her white robe. The king and queen bowed. Greetings, they both answered. We have found an earthly maid worthy of a Zalarian. She gestured toward the voluptuous redhead. Yethi the mate stone, please. Yethi opened up her palm, and a simple, shiny, smooth white stone appeared. I call forth Damon of the Royal Guard. Shock cut into his heart, as sharp as a laser. Damon grimaced. No, this couldn't be right. The fates had to be wrong. A loud gasp echoed around him. Haas gripped his tense shoulder. Don't make them mad, Damon. Go. Damon reluctantly left the pew and slowly dragged his feet to the altar. He avoided Cosima, who looked at him with pity. She knew how he felt and had told him more than once he needed to find another. She belonged to Gremlin, and the king was her soulmate. Relo smiled. Be glad, guard. You will be the first to give hope to your people. Damon bit his tongue to keep from arguing. Defying a fate warranted death. But although his heart lay with the queen, he would not betray his people. Mated didn't equal love. Stretch out your hand, Relo said. He forced himself to obey. Yethi dropped the smooth stone into his hand, and immediately a surge of energy torpedoed up his arm to his weary heart. He shook uncontrollably as if a jackhammer had fallen down his pants. An image of a red-headed woman with brown eyes formed in his mind. Unlike Cosima, strands of her hair fell out of her tight bun, and she had stains on what looked like some kind of uniform. Just as suddenly as it formed, the image vanished. He stopped shaking, but was was left with bitter disappointment. How could he be mated with such a disheveled female when he adored the gift of perfection on the altar? Rilla put her hand on his chest. You will go with Captain Topaz and the crew on the Orion to fetch your mate. Scorching heat shot through him, hotter than dragon fire. Sweat soaked his skin, and passion fever melted his stubborn heart. His dragon was aroused and demanded its mate. When she lowered her hand, it was gone. It shall be done. Grimmin put his firm hand on Damon's shoulder. He hung his head, knowing love would always be out of his grasp, and now he would be saddled with a mate he hadn't chosen and hadn't wanted. So chapter 1. Hera carried a tray of drinks high over her head and rushed to the dreaded table of rowdy businessmen. Where are our drinks? Hey, we're getting thirsty over here. Unfortunately, the table was in the corner of the tavern with little room for maneuverability, given the wooden banister on one side and the wall on the other. Her Scottish wench uniform stuck to her clammy skin, and her feet ached in her high-heeled boots. She pasted on a smile that barely hid the frustration brewing inside her. She hated being a waitress, but she didn't have any other skills, or at least she didn't think so. 3 months ago, she'd woken up in a snowy park, hungry and freezing, with absolutely no memory. Those first few weeks had been horrible. Pimps trying to force her to turn tricks and street gangs roughing her up for money. Every night she'd been desperate to find a warm, safe place to sleep without having to fear being robbed or raped. She never wanted to live on Denver's hostile streets again, and the happiest day of her life was when she got this job. But she was $252 short of her current rent and was still another $150 short from last month. Her landlady made it clear, pay everything or get out. She desperately needed tips, or tomorrow night she'd be relieving the terror. One of the businessmen patted his leg. Hey, sweet thing, why don't you rest here? He looked like he was barely out of college. He leered down her low-cut peasant-style blouse that threatened to let her breasts tumble out. She'd been putting up with their disgusting comments, hoping they would leave her a nice tip. She ignored him as she lowered the tray and stuck another beer in front of him instead of dumping it over his dark head. Cold fingers slipped up her hike skirt and pinched her butt hard. She squealed and jerked away. She dropped the tray of green beer, sloshing foam onto the dark wooden table. You've got a sweet ass, he slurred. She rubbed the back of her throbbing behind. Great balls of fire. Don't touch me. Pinched by a leprechaun, he chuckled. You should have been wearing green. I am, you idiot. She motioned toward her green plaid skirt. How about a kiss for good luck? He puckered his green-stained lips. No. You say no, Red, but you know you want it. I think you'd like it fast and hard. She gasped, gripping the tray so hard her knuckles turned white. His friends all whistled and clapped. Way to go, Desmond. One of them raised a half-empty beer glass. You know she wants you. He tossed it back and burped loudly. She looked at all of their young, stupid, drunken faces. No heroes here. Hot anger flashed over her face. I bet you blush all the way down to your pretty toes. Desmond reached to touch her arm. Why don't you warm my lap? She jerked away fast, the tips of his fingers brushing her skin, making her shudder. If you don't keep your claws to yourself, I'll jerk you bald. Her deadly voice failed to stop him or his cheering friends. I'd like to see you try, Red. He licked his lips, which tempted her to bash the tray over his head. She shoved the drinks in front of the other 3 drunken men. More green liquor spilled onto the cluttered table. She looked for Mike Hall, the hulking bouncer, but he was busy tangling with the group of rowdy bikers. No help there. Thanks to the cheapskate owner, there was only one bouncer tonight, and she was on her own. She quickly filled her tray with their garbage, trying to remain calm, but her hands shook, betraying her fury that threatened to burst. She whirled around to go back to the bar for more drinks, only to find Desmond blocking her path. He was taller than expected, and his large frame prevented her from darting around him. It was unusually busy Saturday night, and all the other tables were filled with patrons. Unfortunately, Desmond's table was in the corner, and she had no way to escape. Now, was that very nice? You spilled my friend's drinks. I think you need to make up for this. He edged closer, forcing her to back against the wall. His beer breath made her gag. Her butt cheeks still throbbed where he pinched her. Get out of my way. Despite the fear pumping through her, her voice was amazingly strong. Kiss me and I will. She was breathing hard, wishing for a miracle, but like always, she was on her own. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a man that dwarfed Desmond, a frame emerged behind him. He put his hand on Desmond's shoulder and grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back. The lady said no. Hey, Desmond squirmed like a frightened mouse caught by a saber-toothed tiger. Let go of me. The man turned his head toward Desmond's ear. Sit. He shoved him into the chair so hard that the chair almost hit the floor. Desmond's friends stopped cheering and their faces paled. He made a move to get up. I wouldn't do that, the man said. I really wouldn't. His low tone promised violence. Desmond slowly slumped into his chair and put his hands in the air. I don't want any trouble. His friends looked nervously at each other, not making a move to help. Hera stopped breathing, not able to take her eyes off her hero. He was literally the tallest man she'd ever seen and definitely the most handsome, with his long, thick blonde hair, but it was his golden tiger eyes that held her captive. He reminded her of a rugged Viking or a Norse god. He stretched out his hand, and the slight gesture opened up his shirt, revealing a chiseled chest that would make men green with envy and women pant with lust. This way, my lady. She exhaled and then found her voice. Thank you. With his Thor-like sigh, she wasn't sure how she could have missed such a hunk. Noisy customers were crammed around her on all sides, blocking even the slightest path for her to escape, and she was forced to squeeze past him. Her body brushed against his, sending shivers down her spine. He gazed down at her. Are you all right? His husky voice rumbled in his chest. He smelled of smoldering embers as if he just came from sitting around a campfire. Yes, I'm fine. She edged around him. He gently clasped her arm, but she could sense the power hidden within him. He could break her arm if he wanted. They will not hurt you, I promise. I won't let anyone hurt you. What is mine? He glowered at Desmond and his minions, who all huddled, whispering among themselves. She jerked her arm free. Yours? Fiddlesticks. I belong to no man. You're right. You don't. He lifted the corner of his lips into a gorgeous smile that would make even a leprechaun give up his gold. Pretending not to notice, she lifted her chin. If you'll excuse me, Thor, I have work to do. He blinked. Thor? Sorry, called you my boyfriend's nickname, and he's watching us right now. A total lie, but Mr. Universe wouldn't know this. She was only a step about being destitute again, and dallying with a man was out of the question. Her rescuer scanned the bars, trying to figure out who his would-be rival was, as if any man in his right mind would lay claim to her with Superman declaring ownership. She glanced over her shoulder at Thor as he hurried toward the bar. If you don't want to fight, you'll keep your distance. Excuse me. But her little scheme of having a boyfriend failed to faze him. He followed so close behind her she could feel his warm breath on the back of her neck. Adrenaline pumped faster through her body if she were going into flight or fight mode. But by the size and muscles of her rescuer, she doubted she'd get very far if she ran. Slapping him across the face would even be a worse idea, but she wasn't going to play victim either. Surprisingly, there was an empty seat at the bar, and he slid into it. He ordered her beer, but he followed her with those golden eyes, like a tiger waiting for the right moment to pounce on its prey. She pretended not to notice, but she noted the exits in case she had to run. When she reached the waitress station, she exhaled a sigh of relief. Hera, are you okay? Cindy put more drinks on her tray, the light glittering off her green fingernails. Fine strands of her hair escaped from her ponytail and plastered to her face. Every month, Cindy changed the color of her hair, and since it was St. Patrick's Day, it was obviously green. You look like you were in trouble. I was about to get Mike when that hot guy rescued you. But Mike was busy with some young-looking frat boys who seemed to be hassling Brenda, whose Scottish outfit was 2 sizes too small and emphasized her curves. Poor Brenda, Hera said. Seems like every night she's in trouble. Yeah, but tonight's been the worst. Cindy leaned closer. If only Bob the Troll would get her a new uniform. Bob Troy was the owner and very tight with his purse strings. He would only buy new uniforms when skirts or shirts were unraveling and permanently stained. Unfortunately for Brenda, hers was brand new. I know. Hera quickly put her Guinnesses on her tray and glanced at the clock. 30 more minutes until last call, and she would get out of here. She turned around. Desmond and his party headed for the door. He saluted her as he disappeared. She delivered her drinks to more thirsty, rowdy customers, but at least none of them had been as handsy as Desmond. Hoping for a big tip after they hogged her table all night, she'd hurried over, but bitter disappointment bit her in the ass. The bastards had stiffed her. She blinked back tears, wishing she'd have dumped Desmond's beer over his thick skull. Based on her tips, she was still $77 short for rent. She quickly gathered all the glasses on her tray, trying to come up with an excuse to convince her landlord not to evict her. But she was fresh out of ideas. She thought about asking the girls for money, but they were as strapped for cash as she was. She hurried back over to the bar, desperate for options, but pride kept her from begging for help. Despite her throbbing feet and aching arms, she eagerly glanced at the door, hoping more drunken St. Patrick patrons would stumble inside and fill up her empty table, but it was a half hour to closing. Cindy leaned against the bar. Thank God, Mike just got rid of Brenda's tormentors and locked the front doors. My feet are about to fall off. Blasted horny toads. Harris slammed the tray down on the bar. Mike guarded the glass front doors. No one would be coming into Murphy's tonight. Cindy frowned. What's wrong? You've been waiting to be off your feet all night. That's before I knew the horny businessmen were going to stiff me. Cindy shook her head. Cheap bastards. My rent's due tomorrow, and you're short? Her gentle voice irritated Hera. You're lucky. You're married, and you don't have to worry about getting thrown out on your ass in the middle of the night. She lashed out, unleashing her frustration and fear. Cindy gasped. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be a bitch. Hera avoided looking at her, not wanting to see the pity and hurt in her eyes. If you'll excuse me. She quickly filled her empty trays with more stouts and ales and hurried to her yelling customers. But even if they left her a generous amount of money, she knew it wouldn't be enough. The bar soon shut down. Harris customers had left her some awesome tips, and she quickly pocketed the money, but it wasn't enough. She'd bust the tables, trying not to cry. Because of St. Patrick's Day, Bob had decided not to take his normal 10%, but she still had to give the bartender 10% of her tips, which left her $52 short of the rent. Cindy put on her jacket as she followed Hera out of the tavern. You might try going to St. Louis Catholic Church, she said. Father D'Amico is very generous and might be able to help you. Hera wrapped her threadbare jeans jacket tighter around her. I don't take to charity. Cindy shrugged. Then plan on sleeping on the streets. If you change your mind, the church is open all night, although the rectory doesn't open until 10. A beat-up red truck pulled into the parking lot. She grinned. Johnny's here. I gotta go. Johnny got out of the Jeep, then kissed Cindy deeply. She broke away. Let's go home. He opened the passenger door and helped her inside. He hurried around, then the Jeep puffed and rolled out of the parking lot, leaving Hera alone. She sighed heavily, then frowned. She couldn't remember the last time she kissed a man, or if she'd ever been kissed. God, not remembering crap sucked. She shook her head. Fiddlesticks. She couldn't dwell on this. Survival, once again, had raised its ugly head. Dallying with the guy was the last thing she needed. Despite her stiff pride, she needed to persuade Father D'Amico to give her enough money to pay off her landlady. $52 didn't seem like a lot of money, but in this neighborhood, it could just as easily have been $1 million. Damn Desmond, the cheapskate. This was all his fault. She walked briskly through the brightly lit parking lot, clenching her fist. The wind blew plastic cups and discarded newspapers around the pavement. Beer bottles were scattered around a dark blue SUV. Tinted windows prevented Hera from seeing whether the occupants were inside, but she had an uneasy feeling the SUV wasn't empty. The hairs on the back of her neck stood at attention, and she quickened her step. The driver's door opened, and she groaned. Desmond staggered out. Well, if it isn't my hard-to-get waitress, he chugged a beer. Hera stopped and narrowed her eyes. Thanks for the big tip. She couldn't contain her bitterness. 3 of his friends got out of the car. He threw the bottle on the ground, and it shattered, making her jump. You want a tip? You got to earn it. How about each of us take turns with you? Was he serious? His friends chuckled, and one of them actually grabbed his cock. Mike, she screamed, gripping her purse strapped tight. Desmond lifted his head. Your bouncer left 5 minutes ago. Fear squeezed her lungs tight. Not knowing what else to do, she raced back to the now darkened tavern. Please, please, please let Bob be there. But she didn't see his truck. Loud footsteps pursued her, matching her thumpity-thump heartbeat. She ran as fast as she could, blood roaring between her eyes. The door between her ears, The door seemed to be 1,000,001 miles away, but she drew on every bit of energy she possessed. But it wasn't enough. Stinky hot breath huffed onto the back of her neck. Fingertips brushed over her blouse, nearly grabbing her. Sweat trickled down her face. Bob, open the door. She grabbed the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. Desmond crashed into her, knocking the wind out of her. In one quick moment, she was whirled around and her back slammed against the door. A panic bomb exploded in her heart. She pushed on his cast iron chest and kicked his shins. Get off me. He covered her mouth with his, cutting off another protest. She nearly choked on his beer-soaked tongue. His hands were everywhere, mauling, scratching her. She bit his tongue hard, blood squishing into her mouth. He jerked his head back, then touched his lips. The tip of his finger had turned red. She gasped for breath, her chest heaving. I like a woman with fire, he sneered. She glowered, then prepared to be burned. Venomous dripped from her voice. It was an empty threat. Desmond was twice as tall and strong as she, but she refused to go down without a fight. His friends slowly fanned out around him. None of them had pity in her eyes, only lust. Desmond laughed as he ran the back of his hand down her face. I don't think so. Your hero isn't here. Who's going to save you? Her throat closed with despair. No one would hear. No one would care. No one would appear. She was alone. God, she was in real trouble. Please let me go. Her pleading didn't seem to penetrate his drunken mind. He squeezed her cheeks hard. Not till my pretty little leprechaun grants me 4 wishes. She glanced at him and his friends, 4 burly men that only had one wish on their mind. Their cold looks froze her like a Colorado blizzard, temporarily paralyzing her legs, her heart, her lungs. How could she survive this? Suddenly, a loud rumble frosted her bones. It sounded animal, not human, and it was coming from behind Desmond. Hera couldn't see behind his broad back. Desmond? One of his friends squeaked. What the hell? Desmond glanced over his shoulder. He immediately released her and pushed himself against the door. Hera blinked. Great balls of fire. An orange dragon with the most intense golden tiger eyes glared at them. His eyes reminded her of her earlier rescuer. The creature was bigger than Desmond's SUV. It pulled back its lips into a snarl, revealing sharp teeth, and its tail twitched. Oh, God, she whispered. She trembled uncontrollably and held on tight to her purse, the only weapon she had. Desmond's friends edged backward, their blood drained from their stricken faces. Holy shit, what is that thing? Their voices were barely a whisper. It can't be real. It can't be real. It can't be real, Desmond repeated, after saying it would make the creature disappear. The beast took a step closer. Let's get the hell out of here, one of his minions cried. Like frightened cockroaches, they fled in different directions, abandoning Desmond. The beast snorted and smoke puffed out its flaring nostrils. Desmond fled across the building. Please don't hurt me. His plea sounded as pitiful as hers had. A stream of fire spurted out of the dragon's mouth, igniting Desmond's jacket. He ran after his friends, beating the flames and screaming. Holy Mother of God, she was next. Hera ran, her heart beating faster than a cornered rabbit's. But then the beast lunged. In a split second, it transformed, scales disappearing to smooth flesh, and eyes and nose changing from beast to man. Great horny toads. It was her handsome hero from the bar. He blocked her path, then seized her shoulders, pinning her to the wall. I told you, you're mine. Hera shrieked with terror. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small bottle. He squeezed it, and blue smoke swooshed out. She turned her head, but inhaled something sickly sweet. Dizziness swept over her. Her legs turned into wet spaghetti, and she collapsed into strong arms. She couldn't move or scream. The last thing she remembered was being whisked into the darkness. So that's the end of my first chapter.
All right.
So
This is my reaction. I gotta say, as you were writing, as Desmond got her in the hallway, I was just like, I'm gonna kick that guy's ass. I said ass, Ivy. Don't worry. You're fine.
I was a waitress, so I know what she was going through, and it really sucks when you get, when people stiff you, because it's really hard being a waitress.
Yeah.
Anyone not been a waitress? I've been a waitress. Anybody
I have
else?
not.
Oh, you
I
have
have not. I have not.
I applied for a waitress job and I wasn't pretty enough, so the guy gave me the cook job instead.
You're kidding.
No, I'm
I-
serious.
What?
Yeah, I was the cook.
I don't believe that they actually said that.
No, I'm serious. He told me like he hired these pretty little skinny girls and they were just like still in high school or right out of high school, and I was already graduated and about to join the Coast Guard, and I wasn't skinny then, and like they were just like he was like, "Yeah, you can work in the cook as a cook with me. I'll teach you how to bake."
Dylann, you can always serve me food if you want to.
But you know, it's okay because at that time, the Hells Angels came through Montana,
Ooh.
and so the waitresses, were having to go, deal with the Hells Angels, and we were under like strict supervision from the chauvinistic cook, and I don't know, I was just like, whatever.
So, Mel, what made you want to write dragons?
That was my question too.
Oh, sorry.
About dragons. Now, I in my vampire series, the Blood Brotherhood, I have dragons in there as well, and they're all the shapeshifters. I think they're my favorite mythical creature,
Mm-hmm.
and I just love dragons. Always have. And in fact, in my next book with the Legacy Academy, she's a dragon shifter. The heroine is a dragon shifter. So I don't know. I just love dragons. Yeah.
Well, what made you decide to write in that genre in general?
I was always a big Star Trek fan. I don't know if there's people that love Star Trek, but I love Star Trek. And, I fell in love with Captain Kirk. In fact, he's loosely based on some of my Captain Topaz, he's kind of like him. But I love Star Trek. I like Battlestar Galactica, and I, when this genre really came up, then that's when I thought, wow, I could write this and that, So I was writing pirates, and because they're vampire pirates, and they just weren't moving like I wanted to. And I just love the sci-fi romance, so I want to keep writing sci-fi romance. And then I also still want to, go into the Academy romance, which will always have dragons, dragons.
So this will show my ignorance in that genre, but are there a lot of like sci-fi romances that also have shifters? Because
some of them, like Millie Tatum, she has some, so it's a lot of them, is, they're just aliens, but there are the shifters. Right. There's probably more just alien. Now you have the blue men, with the horns. So I'm looking at next year. This is all next year. I'm looking at doing another sci-fi series too, but these guys won't be shifters. They'll be your typical ones. But I'm looking at doing that next year. But right now I have another bear book to write, which is going to be Ryrex, which is going to be the youngest brother. And then I have 2 more of the dragon shifters, but it's still going to be the Chemtrinians, which are my evil aliens. They're going to be in all the books, even with the new series next year. The Chemtrinians, they're like these big, tall white guys, and they're Cyclops, and they're not very nice. So, yeah.
So we do have a couple other questions here. We got Linda says to everybody, what is your favorite childhood book? And ML, you can go first.
Mine would be The Outsiders.
My husband loves that book. Oh my gosh. He says that's literally the only book he's ever read as a child was The Outsiders.
That's Hinton's Outsiders. In fact, my book that I wrote with the J.L. Bowen in that's loosely based on that. It's kind of like The Outsiders go paranormal.
And Ivy?
So mine isn't a book, but it's a series, and it's the old Nancy Drew books, shaped my entire childhood. It helped develop my love of mysteries, and I just can't wait to show my daughter all the books that I have. I think I have all the original series.
Oh, geez.
Wow. They've been reprinted over the years. I think I have all the original. I think it's 150 books.
Oh, wow.
And so I have them at my mom's house. I'm so excited to get up there at some point and bring them down so she can read them.
Okay. I'm gonna have to glitching again. I'm gonna have to second you because I did that, the Nancy Drew, and also the Babysitters Club. The series. Those were what I read as a cat.
There's a new Netflix show for the Babysitters Club coming out.
I saw that. Dylan, what about you?
Ladies Book Club, I think it's after my time. I read Sweet Valley High though.
Yes.
I
I read those too.
And then pretty much anything by Judy Blume.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
I mean,
I got
that's
Judy
how
Blume from
Judy
my-
Blume raised me. I mean, I don't mean disrespect to my mother by that, but yeah. I mean, I like learned about being a teenage girl from Judy Blume. So,
Is it? Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
yeah.
Okay, so we have another question, and we're getting late on time here. Do you read your reviews? And if not, or if they are not flattering, do you get upset, or do you appreciate all reviews, bad and good?
I do read them. And I look, when I do take them seriously. I look at why I'm getting them. I just look to see if there's a theme, then I kind of look at why I'm getting those.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do.
Ivy?
Same boat. I look for helpful criticism because that will only help improve my writing as I push out more books. But on another level, I guess it would be weird if some of the bad reviews didn't hurt, because like you think you're putting your book baby out into the world, and then someone hates it, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, I agree. I once did a blog post about bad reviews because I watched this author. She made the New York Times bestsellers list, and then but even on Goodreads, anytime anybody didn't like her book, she would just attack them. And so I just I wrote this blog post about dealing with bad reviews because that's the same thing. Like I've gotten some bad ones. I got a 2-star because they said on one of my Westerns, because they said women don't ride stallions. And I was like, well, I was literally just on a stallion yesterday. So, and I meant horses and not men. I'm just going to point that out there right now.
You know where my brain went.
You saved me the trouble of chiming in there. Thanks.
I know. I was just seeing it, Dylan. I was like seeing it there. But yeah. What about you, Dylan? How do you deal with bad reviews?
I read all my reviews. I think like both ML and Ivy said, and you, I mean, I think there's,
Merit.
there's nothing like a good review. Like you get a good review, and I mean that can like make my day, my week, my whatever. So authors so appreciate those good reviews. A bad one comes in, or one that is, I mean, besides, sometimes you just get those bad ones where it's like, this book had too much sex.
Yeah.
Some authors consider that a good review. But if they've got a point, I mean, for sure, I take that into account. And, I mean, sometimes they're right. But I just remind myself that, it's like I'm in a book club, and, 10 of us might read a book, and, 5 of us might love it, 3 of us might be like, 2 of us might not like it at all.
Yeah.
And so, it's just reading is super, super subjective. So
Yeah.
if my stuff is not their thing, then that's totally okay. So,
yeah, I had a recent review. Again, it's so subjective. I had a recent review on Whitewater Passion published with Kensington. And she just said, this is a DNF for me. The heroine's an idiot. And I'm just like, okay, sorry that you think that.
And that's not helpful.
No, it's not helpful. It was so mean. And she was like bashing my heroine. And I'm just like, I didn't even get her.
Out there like that, you just, you have to let it go. And it's just, some people, it will resonate with some people, and sometimes it won't. And
yeah.
And that's.
So that blog post I wrote, that was when I was first published, and how I would deal with the bad reviews then. And my husband, bless his heart, I love him to death, is he would give me whiskey, and then we would listen to Toby Keith's The Critic. Have you ever heard that song?
No, but I'll go look it up.
We would sit there and get drunk and listen to Toby Keith's The Critic, and that's how when I was first published,
awesome.
how I dealt with it. So, And then 80 has a question for ML.
Oh, okay.
What's
One
your
more question, and then we need to make sure we have time for Ivy to read.
Yep. What's your favorite shifter to write?
Dragons.
Yeah.
That was a quick answer.
Yeah, she's like, that's it.
Dragons. I did do wolves, and I did like
probably
writing wolves in that, but my favorite is dragons.
So, all right.
All right.
Are you ready to read, Ivy?
Guess so.
All right, so Ivy is super nervous, so everybody give Ivy a little encouragement in the comments. Come on, she can do it. We know you can do it. We're excited.
I'm just worried I'm going to speed through it because I talk fast normally. So I'm like,
Anything worse than what Dawn and I have done before. I mean, we've had some real fun challenges doing this show. So nothing you do is going to be worse than anything we've done. So
Yep.
Good. All right. So you want to set us up? You're reading from the first book?
I'm reading from Conspiracy in the Capitol, which came out in June, which is still this month. I keep forgetting. This is a second chance romance, and it picks up where my main female character has been getting some threats.
All right. Okay. We are going to pop out, and we'll leave you to it. And you're going to do great.
Thank you. Ray was working on a policy brief a few days later when she received a call on her office phone. Hi, it's Ray. Ray, hi, it's Susan at the front desk. We have a package down here for you. Curiosity piqued, Ray grabbed her cell phone and headed toward the elevator. Would Flint send her something at work? Smiling at the thought of it, she pressed the down button and texted him. Did you send a surprise to my office? It seemed as if the elevator took longer than usual. But when it finally arrived, she stepped on and pressed L for the lobby. She pressed the closed button door several times, hoping it would quicken her trip, but to no avail. The trip to the lobby didn't take long because Ray was alone in the elevator. Soon, Ray was chatting with Susan about their days and eyeing the box that was delivered for her. It was long and made of a white cardboard. She thanked Susan for collecting the box for her, snatched it off the desk, and headed back toward the elevator. When she was by herself on the way back up to her floor, she started trying to get a feel for the box, weighing it in her hands and shaking it. It was definitely lighter than she expected. I wonder if there are flowers in here, she muttered to herself. When she reached her office, she closed the door and checked her phone to see if Flint had texted her back. Seeing nothing, she set her phone on a desk. Not wanting to wait anymore, Ray placed the box next to her phone and opened it. She was thankful she remembered to close her door because she knew the gasp that flowed from her lips would have drawn attention to her. There were flowers in there, all right. Dead roses with the thorns still attached. What kind of sick joke is this? She heard her phone vibrate on her desk and leaned over to check it. Flint, sorry, I just got out of a meeting. I didn't send you anything. Should I have? The winky face at the end made her feel a little warm inside, but that feeling quickly vanished when she glanced back at the dead flowers sitting on her desk. She took a photo of the flowers and sent it to Flint. She jumped when her ringtone sounded because she wasn't expecting a phone call. Hey, Ray said, immediately knowing who it was. Someone sent you dead roses? Yep, I wish I were joking about it, but I'm not. Do you have a depraved secret admirer that I don't know about? If I do, I don't know about it either. It's bringing up memories of those text messages I got when we first started dating, and the one right before we went out for drinks weeks ago. As soon as the words flew out of her mouth, Ray knew that she had found the answer. She didn't get these roses until she started dating Flint again. Just like she didn't get those text messages until she began to date Flint for the first time around. Someone doesn't want us to date, but why? She gave him the rundown of what happened when she went to pick up the flowers in the lobby. Flint didn't answer, but he hadn't hung up. Hey, what are you thinking about? Just trying to figure out who in my life would have sent you those, because I agree that it's probably related to you dating me. Could it be an ex? Someone who's pissed that you've moved on? I don't think so. I hadn't dated anyone seriously before we started dating the first time around, and after we broke up, I saw someone off and on, but she is now married with a family of her own. Ray stood up a little taller and played with the offensive white box on her desk. You only dated one person somewhat seriously in the time you spent apart? Yeah, but it's been years. I know, but none of the women were you. Stunned, Ray walked over to her office chair and sunk into the seat. He hadn't dated anyone seriously since they had broken up. She didn't know why she was shocked by this information, because neither had she. Ditto. Flint didn't respond. Since he had nothing to add and she wanted to stay on task, she continued. We need to figure out who sent these to me. I agree. Was there a label on or inside the box? Ray took her time examining the box and shook her head, even though Flint couldn't see her reaction. Nothing on the box or inside of it, which makes sense. What florist would deliver dead flowers to someone? This had to be a special delivery. Maybe asking the front desk if they saw who delivered the flowers might provide a lead. Other than that, I'm not sure if there's much we can do. Ray knew he was right. If Susan didn't see who delivered the flowers, then there was a chance that there might be cameras at the front door, but she might not be able to access the footage. While you go do that, I'll do some digging of my own. Is a camera I set up in your apartment still working properly? Yes, I check the footage every other day or so for anything suspicious, but have found nothing yet. Ray took a breath before continuing. I'll let you know what Susan says, and if you find out anything, let me know. Sure, I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye. Ray hung up her cell phone and picked up her office phone. She dialed the front desk and waited for Susan to pick up. Hey, Susan, thanks for picking up the package for me a few minutes ago. Did you see who delivered it? Oh, it was no problem, dear. And no, I stepped away from the desk, and it was there when I came back. Why? I'm trying to figure out who sent it, and there was no name on the package. Do we have any cameras at the front door? We do, but they haven't been working for the last week. We are waiting for the security company to come back out and finish fixing them. Ray leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. Just her luck. Thanks for your help. I'm sorry I couldn't be more helpful. Ray disconnected the call and placed her hands over her face. This warrant going to the police? Technically, this wasn't stalking, and it wasn't harming her. It was just a nasty prank that would now bother her for the rest of the day. She checked her cell phone, but saw nothing pressing. She took the photo and sent it to her girlfriends to see if they had any ideas of what to do. Ray, check out what I got today. Jules, someone sent you dead roses? Who would do that? Ray, your guess is as good as mine. Liv, that's pretty fucked up. Ray, tell me about it. Eve, this is taking me back to the text messages, and you got another one a few weeks ago, right? Liv, yeah, that was my second thought. Ray, yep. Looks like the person is getting a little bolder. I talked to Flint about it earlier, and he had no clue who it would be. We both agreed that it had to be someone connected to him. However, because this is not a coincidence. Jules, is there anything we can do to help? Ray took a moment to calm herself down while she read Jules' text once more. Ray, I don't think so. I'm lucky to have y'all in my life. Liv, yeah, you are. Ray smirked because she could read the snark through the text message. Ray, hardy har har. I'm not sure what else to do. Eve, probably need Flint to connect the dots. My thoughts exactly, Ray whispered to herself. She stood up, grabbed the box, and headed out of her office. Ray smiled at a coworker as she walked past their desk to another hallway in the building. She found the garbage and recycling room. She placed the roses in the garbage and broke down the box and put it in the recycling bin. She returned to her desk took a deep breath and went back to concentrating on work to finish the day out strong. A few hours later, as Ray was walking out of her office building, her phone rang. She answered it as she hurried to the metro station. Hey, what's up, Flint? Nothing. I was just checking in on you after the flower delivery. That's so sweet. Did you find out anything about the flowers? Not yet, but I'll let you know if I do. I'm about to grab drinks with my father, and who knows how long that will take. Are you headed home or out to happy hour with the girls? Headed home, but you can come over when you finish up with your dad. I might take you up on that. I'll let you know when I'm done. His voice dropped a few octaves, and the promise of more was laced throughout his words. It sent shivers down her spine. I like that a lot. I'm at the metro, so I'll talk to you later. Ray waited for him to say bye before she disconnected the call. With that, Ray entered the train station. She browsed her phone as she waited for her train, feeling a sense of relief when she realized the next train coming to the station was headed for Virginia. She briefly closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Ray stretched her muscles to get a kink out of her neck, and when she opened her eyes, she noticed someone a few feet away staring at her. Refusing to be the first to look away, she tilted her head as if to say, "What?" He gave her a small smile as the train entered the station and didn't break eye contact as he headed toward the train doors. Only when she had to get on the train did she break their stare as a crowd of people flowed onto the train. Once everyone was situated, Ray looked up again to find a man still staring at her. Thank you.
All right. So, okay. Dylan told me not to give anything away, but like I'm gonna. So the other book, The Love in the Capital, is the prequel, right?
Yes. So that takes place several years before Conspiracy in the Capitol does.
Okay. And he's in the Air Force.
He is in the Air Force.
I can tell by the uniform on the front of
Yes.
the cover. How did you decide to make him from the Air Force?
I actually have a friend who's in the Air Force. She's a writing buddy. And I was like, do you mind if I like pick your brain about like Air Force stuff? And she's like, sure. And so she helped me develop the character that you see in the novella.
Nice. All right. We do have some questions. 80 wants to know, do you always know who the bad guy is before you start writing the story?
I usually have a general idea, but sometimes the story takes on a mind of its own and just goes. And I'm like, okay, I'll keep typing and follow you along with it. So sometimes I do, or I have an idea for it, but sometimes I don't. Like at the end of Conspiracy in the Capitol, I didn't expect those people to be the last people standing at the end.
I love that. So are you a pantser or a plotter?
I say I'm a plotter, but then my story takes on a mind of its own, so I end up being kind of a pantser because I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds great. Let's keep going and see where this thread ends.
And then for both of you, what is your daily writing routine?
For me, I have to have coffee first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I think every writer does.
Yeah. And, you know, I got a new tool. I don't know if you guys have gotten it. It's called Plotter. And I plotted it out. Did you guys do that? Yeah. And I did that. I mean, my story will deviate at times, but it really does help me make sure that I'm doing like some of the plots, like with the like the Dark Night of the Soul and that. So, you know, I try to write 1,500 words a day. These last couple of months and that I haven't always been able to do that just because of some family stuff going on. But that's what I do.
So you're a plotter or a pantser then? You're a plantser?
I'm a pantser.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
And what about you, Ivy?
So I try to fit in my writing in between taking care of my baby girl. She's 19 months old, so she doesn't let me do too much writing. But I usually hop into a sprint group chat. And Dylan knows what I'm talking about. And I usually hang out with other writers and try to write when I can. It's usually in the evenings because she goes down for a bed. Well, sometimes she's been staying up pretty late recently. I guess 18-month sleep regression. But yeah, I usually try to write at least 1,000 words. I was writing faster before Corona, where I can like usually finish maybe a novel a month, but it's been taking me about a month and a half now to get through finishing my stuff.
I was gonna say nap time. I know all about nap time. I got four kids, so but they're all out of toddlerhood, so I'm very grateful for that. All right, and what is your favorite genre to read? Is it the same genre that you write in?
For me right now, I like reading the Academy romance. You know, I just gobble those up. You know, I love it. But I like the sci-fi. But right now, I'm really into the Academy romance. But I like the sci-fi right now.
And I am a huge fan of contemporary romance and romantic suspense as a reader and as a writer. I have J.D. Robb's book right here next to me because I was rereading it again when I had a little bit of free time. So I pretty much stick to those genres, even though I do want to start reading a little bit more paranormal romance. I'm interested. based on just some of my friends who are writing in a genre.
And will there be more in your series?
There will be. The next book in the Capital series is coming out in September. And I am hoping that my new book that's coming out in July will be an extended series that goes on for years, Behind the Hill. Because I've always looked up to like J.D. Nora Roberts, and Marie Forrest, and they have long-going series in romantic suspense. And that's my hope to do the same.
Nice.
So you've got the series being in July, and then the next one in the Capital series in September.
Yep.
Right?
And then hopefully the next book in the Behind the Hill series is out in November around my birthday.
Nice.
Awesome. And ML, when does your next book come out?
My next book comes out in August. August 21st is the first one. Is Legacy Academy, year one. The next, okay, I'm just going to go in here and cheat and look at mine so I can tell you, because I'm not always good with dates. But yeah, it comes out August 21st is Legacy Academy, year one. And then in October 16th is when the second one comes out. And then I jump back into writing an ML Guida book, and I'm writing A Wolf's Christmas Story, which is part of my Vampires on Holiday. And then
cute. That's a cute title. That's sorry.
Okay. And then on Christmas Day is when the third Academy book comes out.
Now, are you guys indie or trad, or are you hybrid?
I'm indie.
Same, I'm indie as well.
Okay. Awesome. And is there any more questions?
I have a question. I was just going to ask, how far out do you plan your publishing schedule? I mean, do you have it planned like out into next year, or you?
With the Academy Romance, I do. And then I snuck in Ryrick's story, the next bear one, because I feel like I'm doing a lot of the M. Guida, and I need to kind of go back to the sci-fi. So I have my schedule is all filled up until February or March. So I'm starting to do newsletters.
So do you do pre-orders to like push yourself to get it done, or do you just put them on your calendar and hope you get it?
I do pre-orders because I have a friend of mine, he shall not be named, who does her pre-orders and does it right up to the very last minute, and Dylan knows who that is.
I'm guessing the same person that is on this chat here.
Yeah, we all know who it is.
One of our favorite
Yes.
And so usually Yep, I'm planned. I'm looking at my schedule now. I am scheduled out until April 2021.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness. And here I am just like hoping to get some words in tomorrow.
I'm also like, I guess I also planned it so that sorry.
She's probably.
Oh, it's okay. I was just gonna say that's why we invite other authors to come on so we can learn what we should be doing, Don.
Yes, I need a calendar.
I was gonna say that I am planned out. I try to be at least a book ahead. So hopefully the pre-order doesn't sneak up on me, but this next in the Capital book is coming up pretty quick, even though it's September, but like, you have to go through editing and stuff. And so that takes up time. So hopefully.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know we always tend to go over, and we've done it yet again, Dawn.
We have, but it's only 4 minutes. It's not 15 this time.
Right. It's been a blast hearing from both of you, and we've got your giveaways open through Sunday night. If you want to take a look at those, they're posted in the Romance Happy Hour Facebook page, and you've still got time to get your entry in for that.
Yep.
Okay. So, anything else, Dawn?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for
Well,
having
thank
us.
you. No, it's been fun. We always have a blast, and yeah, thank you both for sharing your work with us. We'll go give you really good reviews now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody have a good night. Dawn and I will see you back here the second Thursday in July, which I did not look up that date, so I'm not sure. I think what date is that?
It's I
We're
think
super well prepared. We will see you back on July 9th.
Yes.
I got it. July 9th. Yes.
It's hard to be prepared when you're drinking wine while you're doing this.
Well, then you are prepared.
Yes, that's your preparation.
All right. No, sorry, Sarah.
Yeah.
You know what? We did actually see, I saw Sarah asked about the nuisance beavers because I talk about the nuisance beavers every time I'm up the lake. And actually one did just, I don't know, scamper. What do beavers do? Do they run? Do they scamper? Do they?
I don't know.
They
Scamper
don't
is a good
waddle.
word.
I mean, he ran across the dirt road as
beavers waddle. I don't think they scamper.
I don't know. Beavers
They don't waddle?
I
Think they waddle. They kind of waddle like beavers.
I think it's.
I don't know.
So yeah. Now there was a beaver that
Dylann-
scampered across the road when we pulled in. So
Dylann said
I'll keep
she's
an
the
eye
one
out.
that sent it. Or Dylann, Linda's the one
I
that
know.
said she's the one that sent it to you.
You know
No
what,
way.
Linda? You can keep your beaver to yourself, honey. I love you, Linda. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
All right. If there are any nuisance beaver sightings on the lake this weekend, I'll take pictures and post them. So
Yeah, for sure.
no one misses out. All right.
Amy wants us to do a beaver waddle again for everybody.
No, there will be no demo. No demo from me. And there we go. We're late. We better cut this off.
Okay,
right
we
now.
gotta get going. Yeah, it's getting weirder than we usually have
All
it.
right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Bye.